Hi there! Today we're taking a walk through Orléans, an old French city on the banks of the Loire River. Once a Roman stronghold, later the turning point of Joan of Arc's legendary journey. This city lives in many eras at once. Gothic arches, Renaissance facades, and timber-framed houses all blending into something magical. Orléans isn't a tourist factory. It's a place to slow down, listen to footsteps on cobblestones, and feel what France really sounds like, unfiltered. Let's take a walk. We're standing in Place du Martroi, the beating heart of Orléans. At the center is a statue of Joan of Arc, the teenage girl with a divine mission who saved the city from the English siege in 1429. Fun fact, this statue is a replica of the one in Paris, but here in her city, it feels truly alive. Today, the square is more than history. It's where locals meet up, kids play, people sip coffee, and street musicians perform. But if you listen closely, you might just hear the echo of hooves and voices from centuries past. Here she is, Joan of Arc, a girl from a small village who claimed to hear voices from heaven and led an army. Her fame began right here in Orléans, when in 1429 she lifted the siege and turned the tide of war when hope seemed lost. This statue was made in the 19th century by sculptor Fremier. Notice the energy. Joan isn't just posed, she's in motion, charging forward. It captures the moment France found its spirit again. Below the pedestal, you'll find bronze reliefs of her most legendary scenes. And every May, this square becomes a festival ground to honor her, with parades, costumes, and even medieval jousts. Place du Martroi isn't just a place of history. It's a stage for modern life. Festivals, street fairs, and especially the grand May celebrations for Joan of Arc all happen here. It starts with a medieval-style parade, knights on horseback, musicians in tunics, kids waving flags. And it's not just for tourists, it's part of Orléans' living culture. The rest of the year you'll find Christmas markets, wine tastings, concerts, and even art exhibits set right in the square. During the Revolution, a guillotine once stood here. Today, park benches, kids on scooters, and a morning croissant in the sun. Quite a shift, huh? And here are the half-timbered houses that give Old Orleans its charm. These wooden beams weren't just decorative, they were structural. The colorful facades? That's a tradition going back to the Middle Ages. Back then, colors could show the owner's trade or guild. Sometimes it looks like the houses are leaning a bit, and they are. Centuries of life, fires, repairs, each twist tells a story. That's the magic of these streets. A little disorder, a little fairy tale. You almost want to knock on every door and ask who lived there 100 years ago. We're walking along Rue Jeanne d'Arc, and yes, it's named after that Joan. This is the road she rode down in May 1429 after liberating the city. Today, it's calm and orderly, with tram lines and classical facades. But the spirit of her time still lingers, especially as the grand silhouette of Sainte-Croix Cathedral comes into view. Look closely. You'll see flags, including Ukrainian ones. Orléans has always shown solidarity in difficult times. This is a city where honor and freedom still echo in the streets. This street feels like Orléans' grand hallway. Its length, its symmetry, the architecture, everything points you towards something important. And at the end, the cathedral waits like a final brushstroke on a painting. There's always life here, but in a peaceful, very French way. Someone rushing to work, someone leaving a bakery with a fresh baguette, and others just strolling slowly, like us. Rue Jeanne d'Arc literally connects past and present with every step. In the evenings, especially in warmer months, you might hear street musicians playing. And during the Joan of Arc festivals in May, this whole stretch becomes a living stage with flags, torches, and cavalry parades. Sainte-Croix Cathedral looks like it grew out of the ground itself. Its towers reach nearly 90 meters high, with Gothic arches and a giant rose window staring down at the square. It may look medieval, but most of what we see today was rebuilt in the 18th and 19th centuries, after the original was damaged in the wars of religion. Still, the soul of the past is here. Parts of the interior date back to the 1200s, and the layout follows classic French Gothic design, a cross-shaped floor plan, multiple naves, chapels, and stained glass windows. The towers are especially striking, like a fortress of faith. Fun fact, Joan of Arc prayed here during the siege of Orléans. You can still find her image in the stained glass and reliefs inside. Some say when she entered this place, even the battle outside went silent. And here's another French icon, the strike. Yes, France is more than baguettes and flowered balconies. The French take their rights seriously, and they protest loudly, proudly, and almost on schedule. Looks like today's a union demonstration, usually about wages, pensions, or work conditions. Protests like this are a part of everyday democracy here, not chaos. People come with signs, flags, sometimes drums, and almost always a coffee in hand. And notice the police? They're here more to observe than to intervene. It's noisy, sure, but it's organized and very, very French. We're inside Sainte-Croix Cathedral, and the first thing you feel is not silence, but stillness, a deeper quiet. Even with footsteps echoing, whispers here and there, and someone lighting a candle, the building holds centuries of breath, hope, and prayer. The vaults soar nearly 30 meters overhead, with ribbed arches like a nervous system carved in stone. Light filters through the stained glass, bathing everything in blues, reds, and gold. These windows aren't just decoration. They're stories in glass. Most famous is the series of 10 giant windows showing the life of Joan of Arc. Made in the 19th century, but based on medieval texts, they show not just the warrior, but the girl, full of doubt, searching, real. Turn around, and the altar takes your eye. It's not overly ornate, but it commands the space. Behind it, the choir area is rich with carved wood, statues of apostles, and the great organ suspended high above. This organ is one of the largest in the region. If you're lucky enough to hear it, the sound isn't just heard, it's felt. Along the side aisles are chapels, each dedicated to a saint. Some are filled with marble and gold, others humble, with wooden panels and a single stained glass window. Each one reflects the spirit of its time. You'll also find memorial plaques, their inscriptions faded, but still whispering. Someone once lived, believed, and wanted to be remembered. Look down. The floor is mosaic, and if you pay attention, you'll see the scars of restoration, old stone blending into new. It's beautiful, like a mark of survival. The main nave stretches back toward the entrance, symbolizing the journey from darkness into light. Gothic architecture wasn't just about height or drama. It was calculated light. Every window, every arch, every shadow, designed to lift the mind upward. Look up. That's the organ. It hovers above the nave like a ship at rest, massive and dark, with a carved wooden case. This isn't just a musical instrument, it's the cathedral's voice. When it plays, the walls breathe, the floor hums, and the air turns almost physical. An organ has existed here since the 1500s, but the one we see now was restored and expanded in the 19th century. Over 5,000 pipes, 3 manuals, a full pedal board, and a sound range that can go from a whisper to a thunderclap, from gentle prayer to something that feels like Joan herself riding into battle. It's not just used for Mass. The cathedral hosts proper organ concerts too. Players come from all over Europe just to sit at this console. And the sound? You can't truly record it. You have to feel it. Its vibration, its presence, it's alive. Sainte-Croix Cathedral has been through so much, it almost feels alive. Construction began in the 13th century under King Louis IX, the Crusader king, and wasn't truly finished for nearly 600 years. That's because it was destroyed and rebuilt again and again, ravaged during the wars of religion, bombed in World War II, but always rising from the rubble, like it simply refused to disappear. Some say there are ancient crypts below the cathedral, once used as secret passages by clergy, and maybe even Joan of Arc walked through them. Truth or legend? Who knows? But the idea that tunnels lie beneath your feet gives the place a hidden weight. There's a story from the 1600s. During a storm, lightning struck one of the towers while a clockmaker was inside repairing the bell mechanism. He fell, but survived, caught by the strap of his tool bag. Grateful for the miracle, he cared for the cathedral's clocks free of charge for the rest of his life. And local elders whisper that the cathedral breathes at night, especially on the eve of the Feast of the Holy Cross. They say if you stand inside in total silence, you might hear the wind singing through the columns, in voices long gone. Today, the cathedral isn't just a monument. People still pray here, get married, light candles, and listen to the organ. It lives, quietly, gracefully, without hurry. Some come for faith, others for peace. And in all its grandeur, it reminds us, even the oldest things stay alive as long as we need them. And here we are, back outside. And yes, the strike is still going. Or maybe a new one started. In France, they joke. The weather changes, but the strike is eternal. Strikes here aren't just protests. They're part of the national identity. The first major labor strike happened in 1831, when silk workers in Lyon had had enough of starving wages. Since then, Paris Commune, May 68 student revolts, pension protests. French history is practically written between banners and marches. But a French strike is almost an art form. There are rules: advance notice, approved routes, police present but rarely interfering. It's loud, but it's structured. The term faire grève means to strike, but originally came from workers standing on the gravel square, grève, near the factory. There's even a legendary story from early 1900s Paris, where tram drivers went on strike, but kept driving the trams for free. Passengers would hop on, and the drivers would say, "Aujourd'hui, c'est pour le peuple." Today, it's for the people. So if you see protesters singing, sipping coffee, or even dancing, don't be surprised. This is France, loud, proud, and always ready to remind the world who truly owns the streets. Sometimes the real magic isn't in the big landmarks. It's in streets like this, worn cobblestones underfoot, shuttered windows, the scent of coffee and time in the air. Here, Orléans shows its quieter side. There's no rush. You walk without checking the map, just listening to your footsteps, noticing the architecture. Old moldings here, a sealed-off archway there. Nothing flashy, just an honest old city, living at its own pace. Orléans has character. Long before Joan of Arc, it was a Roman town called Cenabum, a major trading post. But the Gauls didn't like Roman taxes. They rebelled. Caesar responded by burning the city to the ground. So the idea of tearing down and rebuilding, not new here. There's a funny tale from the 1700s. A local apothecary sold a miracle tonic that supposedly cured sadness, liver issues, and even bad weather. Authorities kept trying to charge him with fraud, but locals defended him. They said, "He may not heal your body, but he lifts your spirit." A legend speaks of the ghost carriage. Walk these streets late at night, and you might hear the distant clatter of hooves and old wooden wheels, but see nothing. Locals say it's someone from the past, reminding us time is precious. Orléans is also one of the few French cities that preserved more old buildings than it lost. Even during World War II, it was mostly spared, unlike nearby Tours. Locals say, "We may be small, but we're tough." Many streets are named after people no one remembers, like Rue des Pastoureaux, honoring a bizarre peasant movement in the 1200s. Children, beggars, and shepherds marched in an unauthorized crusade. Few made it far, but their story survived. A reminder that faith can overpower logic. And here's a fun twist. Orléans is home to the man who first used a hypodermic needle for injection. Yes, in a city known for protests and debates over every reform, someone quietly changed medicine forever. France, after all, is a master of mixing chaos with progress. If you look closely, Orléans has a quiet strength. It doesn't try to impress, but it never lets you forget it. It's a city that just lives, and that's exactly what makes it special. Nearly every house in the center has a story. This one might have belonged to a winemaking family. That one, a lawyer who vanished during the Revolution. Another building once held the city's first cinema back in the 1950s. Now it's just an office, but the story lingers in the bricks. French cities preserve memory through architecture, signage, even the rhythm of their streets. In Orléans, that rhythm is slow. Even locals pause sometimes to watch sunlight on a wall or sparrows dust bathing in the square. Orléans doesn't put on a show. but it tells stories if you know how to listen. You don't have to chase wow moments here. Just walk and absorb. And ahead of us, the Loire River. That's a whole new rhythm entirely. If you look closely, Orléans has a quiet strength. It doesn't try to impress, but it never lets you forget it. And here's the Loire, the longest river in France, and one of the wildest. Unlike many others, it flows freely, with few dams. That freedom feels deeply French, independent, alive, a little unpredictable. Orléans has always been a river city. Wine, grain, salt, all once floated through here. Barges docked, ships were built, fish were sold, and feasts held. In spring, the Loire sometimes flooded, turning streets into quiet canals. Today, it's a place for walks, fishing, and quiet moments. The river isn't loud or fast, but it has its own rhythm. Sit by the water, and everything slows down.